In this week's episode, we take a look at what tactics it takes to be a gold medalist at one of the best sports games ever made. From joystick waggling to some strange technique I didn't even know was a thing, and a masterclass in how it should be played and how it shouldn't be played. It's not as easy as you think. Welcome back, Arcadians. In this week's episode, we are going to be looking at one of the most successful games of the 1980s. It is Konami's Track and Field from 1984. Now, not only is this one of my favourite games here at the Arcade Archive, but everyone that comes and visits absolutely adores this game because it is just so much fun. Not only can you have a great game on your own, but when you've got four of you playing this together, it just makes for a great competitive game. It really does. So what we're going to be doing in this video is have a look at some of the tips and hints of how to play this game and all of its events, and also some of the conversions that made it over to some of the home systems. Track and Field, also known as Hyper Olympic in Japan and Europe, is an Olympic theme sports game developed by Konami and released into the arcades in 1983. It was initially released under the Japanese title Hyper Olympic in 1983 before being released in the US as Track and Field in 1984. Hyper Olympic was licensed to Centuri for the North American distribution. However, Atari had been chosen as the official Olympics video game sponsor, so Centuri were unable to keep the title Hyper Olympic. It was subsequently introduced into North America as Track and Field at a trade show in October 1983. Despite the hype though for Laserdisc games prior to the show, many operators and distributors ended up considering Track and Field to be their biggest hit at the event. And they were 100% right to think so, because this game was a worldwide commercial success in the arcades, becoming one of the most successful arcade games of 1984. Konami and Centuri also held a 1984 Track and Field video game competition that drew more than 1 million players internationally, holding the record for the largest organised video game competition of its time as of 2016. The cabinet here at the Arcade Archive is definitely showing its age with some faded artwork, but the amount of playtime it gets, it's been extremely reliable, and only now and again the leaf switches need a good clean. Looking inside the cabinet, the PCB for Track and Field runs on the 6809 processor and has the Konami Edge connector, so if you wanted, you could change the game out for its hugely successful sequel Hyper Sports, which was released a year later into the arcades in 1984. Now, back in my day, which was a long time ago now, where I used to play this in my local arcade, which was in Twickenham, we didn't play it on this beautiful Centuri cabinet. We played it more likely on a dedicated Electrocoin cabinet, which was the company here in the UK that had a license for a lot of these games, and they made their own dedicated cabinets around these games. But what I remember most about the one that I used to play was the button layout was different than this. Especially the buttons, because what they did to stop us kids playing this for a very long time, because if kids were playing this for a long time, the operator wasn't making any money. So they developed these buttons with like a cone-shaped cover at the top to stop kids doing this with their fingers and getting really high scores and staying on this for hours and hours. Which was a shame because it did affect our gameplay, but every player had that problem. So it was still fun, but it's nice to have this beautiful Centuri cabinet here at the Arcade Archive and play it how it was meant to be played for hours if you're really good. Now, we didn't all have the money or the convenience of playing this game, and for some, it might have only been available at a holiday location. But for those who did, took fond memories home with them, and when it was released and available to play on the 8-bit systems, kids rushed out to buy it. And for me, that was W.H. Smith in Kingston, London. And it just so happens that Neil, in the cave above me, has built a shop from that era. Coming into Neil's makeshift W.H. Smith shop from the 80s is so cool. It fills me with so much nostalgia. It's exactly how I remember it. And for me as a kid, you know, after reading Crash Magazine and all the reviews, if we couldn't find the game that we saw in Crash Magazine that month, because that was the only way we knew what game was coming out that month, was through all the magazines, we'd buy the game on the box art. And I'm telling you, the box art from a lot of these games from the 80s were the best. They really were. But the only thing that got a lot of kids hoodwinked into buying these games was the screenshots on the back, which were mostly taken from the arcade game and not the game you were actually buying. So a lot of kids, even I, fell into that trap of looking at the graphics thinking, oh my God, is this it? I'm going to play this when I get home. No, it wasn't. It wasn't the same at all. But I'm happy to say that Daley Thompson's Decathlon, even though this hasn't got any of the screenshots on the back, this was a faithful port of the arcade game Track and Field. And I've got fond memories of playing this with many of my friends in many different ways back in the day, with a golf ball, with a stick, waggling that joystick and pressing those buttons as hard as I could. This was the game to play in the 80s. So cool. Daley Thompson's Decathlon was developed and released by Ocean Software in 1984. It was released in the wake of Daley Thompson's popularity following his gold medals at the Decathlon at the 1980 and 1984 Olympic Games. The game is a license of Konami's Track and Field, and it was a huge hit. It was the 9th best-selling computer game of 1985 here in the UK. But depending on what computer you experienced it on, be it the Commodore 64, the Amstrad CPC or the ZX Spectrum, which is what I had, you had two ways of playing this. For example, running is simulated by hitting two keys as quickly as possible, which is how I played it. But if you had a joystick, you had to move it from side to side as quickly as possible. Now this became very repetitive and became known as the joystick killer, and I can see why this is not fun to return to after playing my superior arcade version. The NES version, which I should be playing on the PlayChoice 10 for that arcade experience, is really faithful to the arcade, with colourful sprite animations and good sound effects. Compared to the monochrome graphics and zero sound effects of the ZX Spectrum, this is amazing and definitely one for your collection. The controls, however, on the PlayChoice 10 feel quite awkward. Limited to just two buttons on the control panel, the jump and throw button has now been replaced with pushing up on the joystick, which makes this quite an uncomfortable experience on the back of your hand. But hey ho, I still think you'd get some quite funny games out of this version with a friend or two. The NES version of the game was re-released in 1992 in Europe in time for the Barcelona Olympics, and it was called Track and Field in Barcelona. It added some extra events from the sequel Hypersports, and this is obviously a game that Neil used to play back in the day because he's developed quite some strange and odd ways of playing it.
Oh, that's a bit slow.
Exactly what you're doing there, Neil.
Well, holding the joypad like this, and then I'm kind of bouncing it with this one as well, so it's like that to try and get maximum speed.
And was that something your mate taught you at school?
No, it just came naturally to me. Yes, it's all in the wrist.
It's all in the wrist, hey? Well, it's all in the fingers down here in the arcade. Check out this method by John Studley, one of only a handful of people in the world that have achieved a perfect Pac-Man. Absolutely incredible, and thank you Tony Temple, the arcade blogger, for letting us use that clip. Absolutely amazing. Oh, look at that score. Right, let's slow this right down because the competition is so high here in the arcade. I need to know what technique John's using here. If you look closely, he's actually alternating not only his hands but his fingers as well. So every finger is touching that button really quickly. I think I need to give this a go. Here we go. Oh, it's not as easy as you think. Oh, they're just getting in the way of each other, all tangled up with each other. Oh God. Oh, I think I need a bit more practice. I'll just go back to that technique, I think. Because that is really hard. That's going to take us so much practice. But I can see how that works if you get every single finger on that button. Oh, there we go. We nearly have it. Is that it?
The time, 40.00 seconds.
No, 40 seconds for the sprint. It's not happening. Now those are some of the advanced techniques, and you don't really need to know any of them to have a good time on this game when you come down and visit. So let's go through some of the basics. So with the 100-metre sprint, we've just got to press these buttons as fast as we can. We can do it like that, you can do it like that, or you can do scratchy scratchy. Oh, I dropped off there, right at the end. I'm using 3 fingers and 2 on the other side. For some reason, I can't use 3 on my left hand. Long jump. Same again. Fast as you can on the buttons. You've got to press that white button as close to the line as possible, and you're aiming for 42 degrees. You've got to hold the button down till it gets to 42 degrees. I don't know if it makes a difference if you carry on pressing the buttons after you jumped. Some seem to think it does, some seem to think it doesn't. Let me know in the comments. But you want to get around 42 degrees, I think it is. So you hold that button down till you get to 42 degrees, 45 there. It's not bad, it's not my best. Speed was really slow on that one. I need to warm my fingers up. Oh, it's a good one. It's a very good one. Oh, look at that. Yes. 952. That is my longest jump ever. So I'm really pleased with that. Now let's slow this down and take a closer look at that last jump, because if you don't mind me saying, it was a very good jump. Speed is essential to long jump, but also take a look at your character. As he gets closer to the line, he freezes. This is basically the game telling you that you can take your fingers off the run button and concentrate on the jump button, because the speed won't decrease once you've got to that point where he freezes. So it allows you to concentrate and get the angle just right for the perfect jump. Javelin works exactly the same as a long jump pretty much, but it's just a little bit further to get. But we've got to go for 45 degrees this time, so just holding down that white button just that little bit longer. Oh, I failed. time run out. Here we go. Now, on this event, you don't have the luxury of the character freezing, but you do have the countdown of the meterage to the line at the bottom of the screen as a guide, which is a massive help. That's really slow. My fingers are starting to get tired already. Is it a qualifier? Oh no, I've got one more chance to qualify. It's a good one. Is it a good one? It's got to be a qualifier. Come on. Yes. Look at that. I'm happy with that. Right, hurdles. Works exactly the same as a sprint, but this time we've got to jump over the hurdles. I use one button for the hurdles, just hitting it as fast as I can, not both. You don't have to use two buttons, you can just use one. Oh, I've hit a hurdle. Oh, qualified though. Yeah, I hit that hurdle.
12.57 seconds.
Moving on to the hammer throw now, and this can be quite tricky if you don't know how. You need to get, you only have to press the button once, it starts moving, and you need to get that yellow bar as it goes up in between the two black bars, just over halfway, like that. See, it's just over halfway, and we've qualified, which is great. It's a really difficult one. It's probably my least favourite event in the game. Oh, too early. Yeah, it's a good one, but it's going out. Oh, that would have been such a good one. Look at that. Next, my favourite event is the high jump. This is quite tricky, so we press any button to get him started, and then basically we've got to press this button 3 times. So once, twice, get the angle, and then to flip his feet up right at the end as he hit the bar. You can press the buttons in between pressing the white button just to get more height, more momentum going. Now with the high jump, we are just repeatedly pressing the run button to get more height, and then nudging him over with the white jump button, and then just keep an eye on his feet. When they flip up, that's when you want to hold that white button down to push him over the mark. So we've now qualified, which is great.
2.36 meters.
Oh, hit the bar. Left it too late.
Wow. 2.36 meters.
Oh, just. How high can we go?
2.37 meters.
And you want to get used to using those run buttons to get that momentum, to get that height, because it does come in handy in the later stages. As you can see, I'm just nudging them over.
2.38 meters. Meters.
Oh, that's it. But we did qualify. I didn't lose a life. And we made it to the end. And that lovely Vangelis Chariots of Fire music to finish it off. The world champion. Something worth noting about this before we go is that Centuri released a kit, a control panel kit for this cabinet, because they found a lot of players were hitting the control panel so hard they were destroying and bashing the buttons. So they made a trackball version of this game, which I think would have been a bad decision for an operator, because it made the game so easy. And I would imagine because it was so easy, people were playing it for longer periods of time. And I think it takes the competitive edge out of the game as well if it makes it too easy. I much prefer the buttons. So yeah, that's really interesting because I have seen some cabinets with trackballs on, but I don't like playing track and field with a trackball. The other thing to note is there are some hidden Easter eggs in this game, and if you're going for high scores, you can get some extra bonus points. Now, I've only seen a couple of them. Two of them are really hard to get, and that is the 100-meter sprint and 100-meter hurdles. If you finish the line with your opponent with exactly the same time, on that line, a little mole will appear and you'll get a 1,000-point bonus. The other one is the long jump, which I've never seen. If you hit the jump button exactly on the beginning of that white line, you'll get a mole appear and another 1,000 points, but I've never got that. I've never seen that. The other two I have got. The javelin's really easy to get. You just have to build up enough speed. If you build up enough speed and you hit the throw button and just hold it down, the javelin will just go straight up and it will hit what looks like a bird or sounds like a bird, but it doesn't look like a bird. It looks like a bowl of noodles or something. But it's interesting because apparently the Japanese designer who designed the game, his initials are on that creature. And you get 1,000 points for that, which is pretty cool. But you do have to build up enough speed, and it only happens once per round. The other one is the high jump. Now, this took me ages to get, just for this video. You have to foul twice, and on your last attempt, you have to qualify, and you get this 1,000-point bonus. It happens so quickly, it almost seems like a bug. But yeah, that's fairly easy to get if you're going for that really high score. Well, that's it for this week's video, guys, I'm afraid, but I thoroughly enjoyed this one. This was a fantastic game. It really is. It has to be one of my favourite games in the Arcade Archive, and I think it's because you can have such a great game on your own, single player, you know, competing for your personal best, but also if you've got another player or even 4 players on this game, it is just so much fun. It gets so competitive. It's such a laugh just to watch people play this game. It's so cool. So if you want to come down here to the Arcade Archive and challenge me to a game, you can go to our website, book a ticket at retrocollective.co.uk. I'll put a link in the video below, and you can enjoy the whole day here in the cave, checking out Neil's amazing console and computer museum, and in the afternoon come down here and challenge me to a game of track and field. What better day could you have? You know. So that's it for this week's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you on the next one, or I'll see you down here for a game of track and field.